The morning sun cast long shadows across the abandoned streets of Denver as Madison Torres crouched behind an overturned delivery truck. Her athletic frame coiled like a spring ready to unleash devastating power. The former Olympic weightlifter had never imagined her superhuman strength would be humanity's last hope against the shambling horrors that now roamed the earth. 6 months had passed since the mysterious meteor shower had transformed ordinary people into flesh-hungry zombies while simultaneously granting extraordinary abilities to a select few women across America. Madison's enhanced physique could now lift cars with ease, her muscles rippling with an otherworldly energy that pulsed beneath her skin like liquid lightning. Behind her, 3 other extraordinary women prepared for what could be their final battle: Jessica Martinez, whose lightning-fast reflexes allowed her to move faster than the human eye could track; Brooklyn Williams, whose impenetrable skin could deflect bullets and zombie claws alike; and Riley Thompson, whose razor-sharp intellect had been amplified to genius levels, enabling her to predict zombie movement patterns with uncanny accuracy. The undead horde approaching their position numbered in the thousands, a writhing mass of decaying flesh and gnashing teeth that stretched for blocks in every direction. These weren't the slow, stumbling zombies from old movies. The meteor's radiation had created something far more terrifying. These creatures retained fragments of their human intelligence, making them cunning predators who could set traps, coordinate attacks, and even use simple tools. Their gray-green skin bore the telltale crystalline growths that marked them as meteor-touched, each crystal pulsing with an eerie blue light that seemed to enhance their already formidable strength and endurance. The lead zombie, a massive brute who had once been a construction worker, dragged a concrete block behind him like a child's toy, his dead eyes scanning the area with predatory intelligence. Madison's enhanced hearing picked up Riley's whispered analysis from their makeshift command post inside the truck's cargo area. They're moving in a pincer formation, trying to surround us from 3 sides while leaving the east route as an apparent escape path. Classic hunting strategy. They want to funnel us toward the industrial district where the larger pack is waiting. Her enhanced mind processed thousands of variables simultaneously, calculating optimal defensive positions, ammunition requirements, and casualty probabilities with machine-like precision. The plan she formulated in seconds would have taken a military strategist hours to develop, but even her remarkable intellect couldn't guarantee their survival against such overwhelming numbers. Jessica's fingers twitched with barely contained energy as she observed the zombie advance through the truck's side mirror. Her superhuman speed had saved countless survivors over the past months, but she'd never faced a horde this massive. Each muscle fiber in her legs contained compressed energy that could propel her at velocities approaching the sound barrier, leaving sonic booms in her wake as she danced between enemies too slow to track her movements. Yet for all her incredible speed, she couldn't be everywhere at once, and the sheer number of targets made even her enhanced abilities seem inadequate against the approaching tsunami of undead flesh. Brooklyn flexed her diamond-hard skin, feeling the familiar tingle that preceded combat as her defensive abilities automatically activated. Her transformation had been the most dramatic of all. What had once been soft human flesh was now harder than military-grade armor, capable of deflecting high-caliber rounds and zombie claws with equal ease. Her strength had increased proportionally, allowing her to wade through zombie crowds like a living tank, but she knew that even her incredible durability had limits. Prolonged exposure to the meteor-touched zombie's crystalline claws could eventually wear down even her enhanced defenses, and the acidic saliva some variants produced posed a constant threat to any exposed areas. The ground trembled beneath their feet as the zombie horde drew closer, their collective footsteps creating a rhythmic drumbeat of impending doom. Madison could smell the sickly sweet stench of decay mixed with the metallic odor of the mysterious crystals that powered both the zombies' abilities and their own enhanced forms. The air itself seemed to vibrate with supernatural energy as 2 forces of post-human evolution prepared to clash in a battle that would determine whether humanity's future lay with the living or the undead. In the distance, smoke columns rose from what remained of major cities, silent testimony to the apocalyptic war that had already claimed millions of lives and transformed the world into a nightmarish battleground where only the strongest and most adaptable could hope to survive. The first zombie reached the outer perimeter of their defensive position, and Riley's tactical mind immediately recognized the critical moment had arrived. "Now," she shouted, her enhanced voice cutting through the morning air like a battle cry. Madison exploded from her concealment with earth-shaking force, her powerful legs propelling her toward the massive construction worker zombie with unstoppable momentum. Her fist connected with the creature's crystalline-encrusted chest, producing a thunderous crack that echoed across the abandoned cityscape as the undead giant flew backward through the air, crashing through a storefront window 30 feet away. But there was no time to celebrate the devastating blow. Dozens more zombies immediately filled the gap, their glowing crystals pulsing brighter as they sensed the presence of their enhanced prey. Jessica became a blur of motion, her superhuman speed allowing her to weave between grasping zombie hands with fluid grace that bordered on the supernatural. Her enhanced reflexes processed the chaotic battlefield in slow motion, each zombie movement telegraphed seconds before it occurred as she struck with surgical precision at vulnerable spots behind their ears where the crystalline growths were thinnest. Her rapid-fire strikes disabled 6 zombies in the span of a heartbeat, but the sheer volume of enemies meant that even her incredible velocity couldn't thin their ranks fast enough to prevent the inevitable encirclement. She found herself forced to retreat toward Brooklyn's position as more zombies poured from side streets and alleyways, their primitive tactical intelligence becoming increasingly apparent. Brooklyn stood like an immovable fortress at the center of their formation, her diamond-hard skin deflecting claws and teeth with metallic ringing sounds that punctuated the chaos of battle. A zombie with acid-dripping fangs lunged at her throat, only to have its jaw shatter against her impenetrable flesh as she delivered a bone-crushing uppercut that sent the creature spinning through the air. Her defensive abilities were perfectly suited for this type of prolonged engagement, but she could feel the subtle vibrations in her enhanced skin that warned of microscopic damage accumulating with each impact. The meteor's radiation had made these zombies stronger than their pre-transformation selves, and their crystalline claws were slowly but steadily finding ways to test even her incredible durability. Riley's genius-level intellect worked overtime, processing battle data at superhuman speeds as she coordinated their defense from her elevated position atop the overturned truck. Her enhanced mind could track individual zombie positions, predict movement patterns, and calculate optimal strike sequences faster than any supercomputer. But even her remarkable abilities couldn't account for the unexpected variable that suddenly emerged from the zombie ranks. A new type of creature stepped forward, humanoid but clearly different from the standard infected, with larger crystalline formations covering its entire body and eyes that glowed with malevolent intelligence. This alpha zombie raised its arms and released a piercing shriek that caused every other zombie in the horde to suddenly coordinate their movements with military precision, transforming the chaotic mob into a disciplined army that moved with terrifying unity of purpose. The tactical situation deteriorated rapidly as the Alpha's influence spread through the zombie ranks like a viral command structure. Madison found herself facing not random attackers but coordinated squads that attempted to grapple her limbs while others aimed for vulnerable points she hadn't even realized she possessed. Her superhuman strength remained devastating against individual opponents, but the zombies had adapted their strategy to exploit her psychological weaknesses rather than her physical ones. They began using human shields, recently turned zombies who still retained enough of their original appearance to cause Madison's attacks to hesitate for crucial milliseconds. The Alpha zombie's tactical intelligence was learning from each exchange, studying the women's fighting patterns and developing countermeasures in real time. Jessica's incredible speed became both her greatest asset and most dangerous liability as the zombies began setting coordinated traps. Groups of undead creatures would feign weakness or confusion, luring her into enclosed spaces where her velocity became a hindrance rather than an advantage. She narrowly avoided a crushing ambush when 20 zombies simultaneously collapsed a partially damaged overpass, their timing so precise it could only have been orchestrated by the Alpha's supernatural coordination abilities. Her enhanced reflexes saved her from the falling debris, but she realized with growing alarm that these weren't mindless monsters anymore. They were learning, adapting, and evolving their tactics with each passing moment. Brooklyn's defensive capabilities faced their most severe test yet as the zombies began employing focused acid attacks, concentrating their corrosive saliva on specific points of her armor-like skin. She could feel microscopic pitting beginning to form on her forearms and shoulders where the concentrated acid had been repeatedly applied, and for the first time since her transformation, genuine concern crept into her tactical assessment. The Alpha zombie seemed to understand that even the most impenetrable defense could be worn down through persistent, concentrated assault, and it was directing its forces to exploit this fundamental weakness with ruthless efficiency. Riley's enhanced intellect raced through possible solutions as she watched their carefully planned defense begin to unravel under the Alpha's superior coordination. Her mind processed thousands of escape routes, counterattack strategies, and defensive formations, but each scenario ended with the same grim conclusion. They were outnumbered, outmaneuvered, and facing an enemy that could adapt faster than they could respond. The Alpha Zombies' crystalline formations weren't just decorative. They appeared to be some form of biological communication network that allowed it to control and coordinate the entire Horde with supernatural precision. She realized that their only hope lay not in defeating the massive army, but in eliminating the central command structure that gave it coherence and purpose. The battle reached a critical turning point when the Alpha Zombie demonstrated an ability none of them had anticipated. It began to emit a low-frequency pulse that seemed to drain their enhanced abilities. Madison felt her superhuman strength flickering like a dying battery, Jessica's speed reduced to merely human levels, and Brooklyn's impenetrable skin showing signs of actual vulnerability for the first time since her transformation. Riley's genius-level intellect remained sharp, but she could feel a strange pressure building in her skull as the Alpha's psychic influence attempted to overwhelm her enhanced mental defenses. The creature's true purpose became terrifyingly clear. It wasn't just leading the zombie horde, it was actively working to strip away the very abilities that made the women humanity's last hope against the undead apocalypse. Desperation sparked innovation as Riley's tactical mind raced through their rapidly diminishing options. The Alpha's power-draining pulse seemed to operate on the same frequency as the crystalline formations that had granted them their abilities in the first place, but her enhanced intellect detected subtle variations in the energy signature that suggested a potential weakness. "The crystals!" she shouted over the chaos, her voice cutting through the sounds of battle. "It's using our own power source against us, but if we can overload the frequency." She didn't need to finish the sentence. Madison immediately understood the implications and began channeling every ounce of her remaining strength into a single desperate gambit. Madison's muscles bulged with concentrated power as she fought against the Alpha's draining influence, her enhanced physiology burning through energy reserves at an unsustainable rate. She grabbed a massive chunk of concrete debris and hurled it not at the Alpha Zombie, but at a partially collapsed building whose steel framework had been exposed by previous battles. The projectile struck with tremendous force, creating a resonant vibration that traveled through the metal structure and began to interfere with the Alpha's control frequency. The effect was immediate. Zombies throughout the Horde stumbled and lost coordination as their command link flickered and wavered. Jessica seized the moment of confusion to execute a desperate flanking maneuver, her speed returning in brief bursts as the Alpha's concentration wavered. She couldn't maintain her superhuman velocity for more than seconds at a time, but those precious moments allowed her to reach the creature's blind spot and deliver a series of rapid strikes to the largest crystalline formation on its back. Each impact sent spider web cracks through the alien mineral structure, and with each fracture, the Alpha's control over the Horde weakened further. Her enhanced reflexes warned her of retaliation just in time to avoid a backhand that would have crushed her skull, but the close call reminded her that even a weakened Alpha Zombie remained incredibly dangerous. Brooklyn took advantage of the chaos to execute a brutal charge through the center of the zombie formation, her partially restored defensive abilities allowing her to bulldoze through enemies that moments before had been wearing down her defenses with systematic precision. Her diamond-hard fists crushed crystalline growths wherever she found them, instinctively understanding that each destroyed formation further weakened the Alpha's network of control. The zombies' acid attacks became increasingly desperate and uncoordinated as their tactical unity dissolved into primitive aggression, but she could see more Alpha Zombies emerging from the urban ruins in the distance. This battle was just the beginning of a much larger war. The tide of battle shifted dramatically when Riley made a crucial discovery about the Alpha's vulnerability. Her genius-level analysis revealed that the creature's power-draining ability required enormous energy expenditure, and it was literally burning through its own crystalline formations to maintain the psychic assault. "It's killing itself to stop us," she realized, her enhanced mind calculating the exact moment when the Alpha's energy reserves would reach critical depletion. The revelation changed everything. They didn't need to defeat the creature through brute force, they just needed to survive long enough for it to exhaust itself. But survival meant holding their ground against thousands of zombies while their own abilities flickered unpredictably, and with more Alphas approaching from multiple directions, time was running out faster than any of them had imagined possible. The real question wasn't whether they could defeat this Alpha Zombie, but whether they could gather enough intelligence about their enemy's weaknesses to have any hope of surviving the next encounter with these terrifyingly evolved creatures. The original Alpha's crystalline formations began to crack and dim as its energy reserves reached critical levels, but the approaching reinforcements presented an even more terrifying revelation. Riley's enhanced perception detected subtle differences in their energy signatures. Each new alpha possessed unique abilities that complemented the power-draining effects of the first. One emanated waves of paralyzing fear that made even her genius-level intellect struggle to maintain rational thought, while another seemed to bend light around itself, creating optical illusions that made targeting nearly impossible. The most disturbing of all was a hulking creature whose crystals pulsed with regenerative energy, continuously healing and strengthening the zombies around it faster than the women could damage them. Madison's strength returned in powerful surges as the original alpha weakened, but she quickly realized that brute force alone wouldn't be enough against this new threat. The regenerative alpha's influence meant that every zombie she destroyed simply reformed within minutes, creating an endless cycle of violence that would inevitably exhaust even her superhuman endurance. She adapted her strategy, focusing on creating obstacles and barriers rather than direct destruction, using her tremendous strength to reshape the battlefield itself by hurling vehicles and debris to create choke points that would slow the zombie advance regardless of their regenerative abilities. Jessica found herself facing the ultimate test of her enhanced reflexes as the illusion-casting alpha made it nearly impossible to distinguish between real threats and phantom images. Her superhuman speed became a liability when she couldn't tell which targets were genuine, leading to wasted energy and dangerous exposure as she struck at mirages while real zombies closed in from unexpected angles. She was forced to rely on her other senses, using sound and scent to navigate the battlefield while her eyes fed her false information, transforming her lightning-fast combat style into a deadly game of blind intuition where a single mistake could prove fatal. Brooklyn's defensive capabilities faced their most complex challenge, yet as the fear-inducing alpha's psychic assault began to compromise her mental state. Her impenetrable skin remained physically invulnerable, but psychological terror was seeping through her defenses, causing her to hesitate at critical moments and second-guess tactical decisions that should have been automatic. The creature's fear aura was specifically designed to target the confidence and determination that made her defensive abilities so effective, gradually eroding her will to fight even as her body remained capable of withstanding tremendous punishment. Riley's genius-level intellect worked frantically to process the new tactical situation, but she realized with growing alarm that they were facing a coordinated assault designed specifically to counter their individual strengths. The multiple alphas weren't random mutations. They were the result of some form of directed evolution that had studied their abilities and developed precise countermeasures. Her enhanced mind detected patterns in their positioning and timing that suggested a higher intelligence was orchestrating the entire encounter, using the alphas as specialized weapons in a larger strategic framework. The terrifying implication was that somewhere in the ruins of civilization, something far more dangerous than even these evolved zombies was watching, learning, and planning humanity's final extinction. As the regenerative alpha's healing aura began to affect the original power drainer, restoring its crystalline formations and renewing its ability to suppress their enhancements, Riley realized they had perhaps minutes before their situation became completely hopeless, and the weight of humanity's survival rested entirely on whatever desperate plan she could devise in a rapidly shrinking window of opportunity. In a moment of desperate inspiration, Riley's enhanced intellect seized upon a critical flaw in the alpha's coordination strategy. Their specialized abilities required them to maintain specific positions relative to each other to maximize effectiveness, creating a complex formation that was tactically powerful but geometrically rigid. "The formation!" she screamed over the chaos, her voice carrying the urgency of final hope. "If we can force them to break their positioning, their abilities will interfere with each other." Her genius-level mind had calculated that the fear-inducer's psychic waves would disrupt the illusion-caster's optical manipulations if they overlapped, while the regenerative alpha's healing energy would overload the power drainer's crystalline network if they came into direct contact. Madison immediately grasped the strategy and launched herself into the most dangerous gambit of her enhanced life. Instead of fighting the zombies, she began systematically destroying the structural supports of nearby buildings, using her tremendous strength to create a cascade of falling debris that would force the alphas to either maintain their formation and be crushed, or break ranks to survive. Her muscles screamed with effort as she tore through steel beams and concrete supports, each demolished structure sending tons of rubble crashing down in carefully calculated patterns designed to herd the alphas toward each other like pieces on a deadly chessboard. Jessica abandoned her attempts to fight through the optical illusions and instead embraced the chaos, using her superhuman speed to create additional confusion by kicking up massive dust clouds and debris fields that would obscure vision for both zombies and alphas alike. If she couldn't see clearly, then neither could her enemies. and her enhanced reflexes gave her a significant advantage in blind combat scenarios. She became a whirlwind of motion, not trying to strike specific targets but simply creating maximum disruption to force the Alpha formation to adapt to rapidly changing battlefield conditions. Brooklyn transformed her defensive strategy into an offensive battering ram, charging directly toward the center of the Alpha formation with the intention of physically forcing the creatures out of their optimal positions. Her impenetrable skin allowed her to ignore the zombie horde entirely as she bulldozed through their ranks, absorbing the fear-inducer's psychic assault and the power drainer's energy suppression while maintaining singular focus on her collision course with the regenerative Alpha. The psychological terror washing over her was overwhelming, but she channeled that fear into pure determination, using it as fuel for her desperate charge. The plan reached its critical moment when Madison's structural demolition succeeded in forcing the illusion caster to abandon its position to avoid a collapsing office building. As it moved into the fear-inducer's psychic field, the overlapping abilities created a feedback loop that sent both creatures writhing in agony as their own powers turned against them. Simultaneously, Brooklyn's charge carried her directly into the regenerative Alpha, and the creature's instinctive healing response triggered a catastrophic overload when it came into contact with the power drainer's energy signature. The crystalline formations on all four Alphas began to resonate at destructive frequencies, creating a chain reaction that spread through the entire zombie horde. Riley watched with a mixture of triumph and horror as their desperate gambit succeeded beyond her wildest calculations. The Alpha zombies' coordinated network collapsed into chaos as their specialized abilities became liabilities rather than advantages. But the energy feedback was creating something entirely unexpected. The crystalline formations weren't just being destroyed. They were evolving, adapting, and merging into something new. As the dust settled and the zombie horde fell into confused disarray, a single massive crystalline structure emerged from the wreckage of the four Alphas, pulsing with combined energies that seemed to draw power from every destroyed zombie on the battlefield. Riley's enhanced intellect processed the implications with cold dread. They had won the battle by forcing their enemies to evolve into something far more powerful than anything they had faced before, and the true test of their abilities was only just beginning. The merged crystalline entity rose from the battlefield like a living mountain of alien mineral, its surface rippling with energy patterns that defied comprehension. Standing nearly 30 feet tall, the creature possessed all the abilities of the destroyed Alphas but amplified beyond recognition, fear-inducing psychic waves that could paralyze entire city blocks, optical illusions so complex they warped reality itself, regenerative powers that could resurrect the dead, and energy-draining capabilities that seemed to draw strength from the very air around it. Most terrifying of all, Riley's genius-level analysis detected that the entity was still growing, absorbing ambient energy from the meteor shower's residual radiation and becoming more powerful with each passing second. Madison felt her enhanced strength surge to unprecedented levels as her body instinctively responded to the ultimate threat. The crystalline entity's mere presence seemed to trigger some form of evolutionary response in her enhanced physiology, pushing her abilities far beyond their previous limits as her muscles expanded with raw power that made her earlier demonstrations look like child's play. She realized that the meteor's radiation hadn't just granted them abilities. It had given them the potential to continuously evolve in response to existential threats, and this creature represented the most dangerous challenge her enhanced system had ever detected. Jessica's superhuman speed accelerated to velocities that approached the theoretical limits of human physics as her body automatically adapted to match the entity's incredible reaction times. Moving faster than sound itself, she became a blur of pure kinetic energy that could circle the massive creature dozens of times in a single heartbeat. But even her enhanced velocity seemed inadequate against an opponent whose sensory abilities operated on entirely different physical principles. The entity's compound awareness could track her movements across multiple dimensions simultaneously, making her incredible speed just another variable in its complex tactical calculations. Brooklyn's defensive capabilities underwent a dramatic transformation as her diamond-hard skin began to incorporate crystalline elements that mirrored the entity's own structure. Her body was literally adapting to match the threat level, developing new defensive mechanisms that could potentially withstand even the creature's devastating combination of abilities. The fear-inducing psychic assault that had nearly broken her confidence earlier now seemed like a gentle breeze compared to the entity's overwhelming presence, and she found herself becoming something more than human as her enhanced physiology rose to meet the ultimate challenge. Riley's enhanced intellect expanded to process information at quantum computational speeds as her brain struggled to comprehend the entity's true nature. What she discovered filled her with both wonder and terror. The creature wasn't just a merged zombie alpha, it was a manifestation of the meteor shower's true purpose. The alien radiation hadn't accidentally created enhanced humans and evolved zombies. It had been designed to trigger an evolutionary arms race that would force both sides to develop increasingly powerful abilities until one emerged as the dominant species. The entity represented the zombie side's ultimate expression, a perfect fusion of all their strengths designed to eliminate the enhanced human threat once and for all. The final confrontation began as the crystalline entity turned its full attention toward the four women, recognizing them as the greatest obstacles to completing its species' evolutionary destiny. The air itself seemed to vibrate with supernatural energy as two pinnacles of post-human evolution prepared for a battle that would determine not just the fate of humanity, but the future of life on Earth itself. Riley's expanded consciousness detected similar entities emerging from the ruins of major cities around the world. This wasn't just a local battle, but the climactic moment in a global war between two radically different visions of evolution's ultimate destination. As her enhanced abilities reached levels she had never imagined possible, she realized that they were no longer fighting for human survival, but for the right to define what the next stage of terrestrial intelligence would become, and the outcome of the next few minutes would echo through the remainder of Earth's history. The ultimate battle erupted with forces that reshaped the very landscape around them. Madison's evolved strength allowed her to tear chunks of Earth from the ground itself, hurling massive boulders with such velocity that they created sonic booms as they struck the crystalline entity's towering form. Each impact sent shockwaves through the creature's structure, but its incredible regenerative abilities immediately began repairing the damage while simultaneously learning from each attack to develop more effective defenses. The entity retaliated by unleashing concentrated beams of energy that could vaporize steel, forcing Madison to rely on her enhanced reflexes to dodge attacks that moved at the speed of light itself. Jessica's transcendent speed created multiple dimensional echoes as she moved faster than the laws of physics should have allowed, striking the entity from dozens of angles simultaneously while existing in several temporal states at once. Her evolved abilities had pushed her beyond mere superhuman velocity into something approaching quantum mechanics, allowing her to attack the creature's past, present, and future positions in the same instant. The entity's compound awareness struggled to track her multidimensional assault, creating the first cracks in its seemingly perfect defensive capabilities as it encountered an opponent who could literally move outside of conventional spacetime. Brooklyn had become a living fortress of crystalline armor that could absorb and redirect the entity's most devastating attacks, her evolved defensive capabilities now incorporating the same alien minerals that powered their enemy. When the creature unleashed its fear-inducing psychic assault, she absorbed the mental energy and converted it into physical strength that made her nearly as powerful as Madison. Her diamond-hard skin had transformed into something beyond human comprehension, a defensive matrix that could adapt to any form of attack while simultaneously analyzing the entity's weaknesses for potential exploitation. Riley's quantum-enhanced intellect had evolved into something approaching omniscience within their local battlefield. Her consciousness expanded to perceive the entity's true nature across multiple dimensions of reality. She could see the creature's decision-making processes before it made them, predict its evolutionary adaptations before they occurred, and most crucially, she had identified the single critical flaw in its otherwise perfect design. The entity's incredible power came from its ability to absorb and redirect energy, but Riley realized that it had no defense against a very specific type of feedback loop that could turn its own abilities against itself in a catastrophic cascade failure. The turning point came when Riley coordinated the ultimate combination attack, directing her teammates with superhuman precision to exploit the entity's vulnerability. Madison struck at the creature's primary energy collection nodes with perfectly timed force. Jessica delivered simultaneous attacks across multiple temporal dimensions to overload its processing capabilities, and Brooklyn positioned herself to absorb and redirect the entity's retaliatory energy burst back into its own core systems. The resulting feedback loop created a resonance cascade that spread through the creature's entire crystalline structure, causing it to literally tear itself apart as its own immense power became its greatest weakness. As the massive entity collapsed into fragments of rapidly dimming crystal, Riley's expanded awareness detected the same phenomenon occurring around the globe. Other enhanced humans had discovered similar vulnerabilities in their local entities, and the zombie evolution's ultimate gambit was failing worldwide. The alien intelligence behind the meteor shower had underestimated humanity's greatest strength: their ability to work together and share knowledge across vast distances. In the aftermath of their victory, The four women stood among the crystal fragments as the last of the zombie horde fell motionless, their controlling intelligence finally severed. The world was forever changed, with enhanced humans now serving as the guardians of a new evolutionary path that would lead not to domination by a single species, but to cooperation between all forms of terrestrial intelligence. Riley's final analysis revealed that they had not just won a battle or even a war. They had proven that evolution's ultimate expression was not individual power, but collective wisdom, and humanity's future would be built on the foundation of that profound truth.